أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ومولاي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك المظلومين. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ومولاي أبا عبد الله يا مظلوم يا غريب كربلاء. لعن الله الظالمين لكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yesterday we covered al-fiqh al-akbar al-asghar, our system of law, Sharia. We spoke about the Sharia, tariqa, haqiqa. In the beginning, we mentioned the ahkam of taqleed. And we said that, inshallah, before every lecture, we want to mention some ahkam so that we may understand our fiqh better. So tonight, I wanted to mention some ahkam on salat, on our prayer. There are some important things we should know about our prayer that would help us, that would make everything make more sense when it comes to Salat al-Jama'ah, for example, or if I should repeat a prayer or not repeat a prayer. Those things are called arkan. A rukun, we have 5 of them, which are obligatory in Salat, that if they are missing from the prayer, or if one of them is added onto the prayer, a rukun is added on to these 5, then we would have to redo the prayer. These 5 things, if they're not there, or something's added onto them, then you definitely have to redo the prayer. If something else is missing, then there are ways that you wouldn't have to redo the prayer. These 5 things. The first one is the niyyah, the intention. So you come to the prayer, and you have to have the intention of it being qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. And you don't have to say it, by the way. Many people come and they think that it's obligatory for them to say nawaitu an usalli salat. You don't have to do that. That's okay. You can, as long as it's in your heart and you know that what you're doing is for God. If someone came to ask you what you're doing, you tell them, I'm going to pray. That's enough. That's your intention. So the first thing you come to in salat is niyyah. That's the first rukun. It has to be there. If it's not there, there's no prayer. The second thing is qiyam. So you're standing up. You can't start your prayer sideways. It has to be standing. You can't be in ruku'. It has to be standing. The third thing is takbir. So you say Allahu Akbar. It has to be there. If there's no takbir, if you said the takbir wrong, there's no salat. You have to say it correctly. Allahu Akbar. The fourth thing is ruku'. So in Salat al-Isha, there have to be 4 ruku'as. If there are 3, if you forgot one, you missed one, even if you didn't mean it, you'd have to redo that prayer. And the 5th one is sujood. And sujood counts as both of them. So if you did one sujood, and then you remembered, oh, I didn't do a ruku', you can still get up and do a ruku'. But if you did 2 sujoods, that's it. That counts as a rukun. Once you pass ruku', you go down, that's it. You're in sujood, you can't go back up if you did both of the sujoods. Now, this helps us when it comes to Salat al-Jama'ah, because many people, they don't know, when should I enter it? If I came in late and they're already praying. If they're in ruku', you can join them for that rik'ah. So you'd come in, you do your intention, that's one rukun, Allahu Akbar. Second rukun, you wait just a little bit, 2 seconds, so it counts as you standing up. Remember the second rukun, the third rukun being qiyam. Then you go into ruku', that's 4 rukuns. So they're in ruku', you just came, Allahu Akbar, stood for 2 seconds, then you went into ruku'. that counts as you being in rak'ah with them. But if they went into sujood, you can't join them anymore. Why? Because they passed ruku'. You can't join them anymore. They passed all the arkan. Make sense? Okay, so now you know, if you go into a prayer, a salat jama'ah, and they're already praying, and they're in sujood, you can't join them for that rak'ah. You have to wait for the following rak'ah. If they're in ruku', you can still join them. The niyyah, the takbir, the qiyam, then you do the ruku'. That's the ahkam for today. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. If anyone has any questions about these, I'm really approachable if you want to ask me afterwards or any other question. Inshallah, I'm at your service. Today, I wanted us to understand what we are made from. Sheikh Bahjat, the mystic that we mentioned yesterday, he has a saying. He says that if only we were to realize that we are sick, then the cure would be easy to find. What does that mean? It means that many people don't realize their own sickness. For if they did, the cure is right there. But before finding any type of cure, we have to know what that thing is made from. An example, if my car broke down on the highway, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know what's wrong. If there's a symptom, I don't know why. I don't know the parts. If I called a mechanic, I told him this is what's wrong with the car, he would immediately know what's wrong because he knows what it's made from. He knows the parts. So if I tell him the symptom, he would know, okay, that's because of that, so you have to do this. Because he knows what the car is made from. The same way with the doctor. He knows what your body is made out of. When you have pain, you tell him, this is happening to me. He'll ask you some questions because he knows. He knows what your body is made from. So he knows from the symptom, or the diseases, or the sickness, that he can give you a cure. So if we are to say that the sickness of the human being is so-and-so, we want to find out what is the human being made out of, so we may find the cure for it. And you have differing schools with different opinions on what the human being is made out of. One school would say the human being is just a body and nothing but the body. That if something is wrong with the human being, then he needs medication, he needs exercise, he needs certain types of food, or he needs a pill. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a pill or taking medication. Actually, I think in our cultures, in our societies, we shy away from this. If someone's going through a psychological problem, we don't accept that. Not my son, or not my daughter, or not me. I won't go see a psychiatrist, or I won't take any pill. Whereas, even the school that says that the human being is made out of body and soul says it's okay to have a pill if that's what's needed. Some schools say body and soul. They would give you medication for the soul or for the body. The school that says it's just body would give you medication for the body only. A teacher of mine, a woman came to him and was telling him often that she keeps seeing Imam Mahdi, and she would have so many visions of him, and she talks to him. And so he felt like this was a psychological issue. He took her to one of his friends who's a psychiatrist. And I'm not talking about the psychology of Freud here, that's completely different. I'm talking about the biological type of psychology, the scientific type of psychology. And he took her to this psychiatrist and he asked her, when did these visions start happening? Was there an accident at the point of beginning? And she told him, yes, the first time I saw it was when I slipped on my head in the bathroom. That's the first time I saw the Imam come to me. So he knew that this was a psychological problem, and he prescribed a pill, and that was it. It was okay, she stopped seeing those visions. It was a psychological problem. And that's fine. We shouldn't shy away from something like that. Just because we believe that in Islam we have a certain way of life doesn't mean we brush away or brush off any type of scientific or psychological evidence. Now, Islam says, like the second school, that the human being is made out of the body and the soul. And it has names for these things. Ruh, jasad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ونفخت فيه من روحي. I breathe into him from my spirit. There's ruh and jasad, the soul and the body. The soul represents the immaterial side of the human being, and the body represents the physical side of the human being. This is what we're made out of, two things. They call the physical side the earth. That's our physical side. The earth, that's what we'll call it. And they call the immaterial side, the soul, they call it the sky. The earth is the place of the animals, and the sky is the place of the angels, and the human being has both of them. The human being is made up of both. And each one has different attributes and elements. And we're going to touch upon those elements. We'll start with the sky. We'll start with the earth, sorry. The earth, the physical side of the human being, you will find that you always, and no one can deny this, you will run towards what gives you pleasure, and you will always run away from what gives you pain. Always. That's how we live our lives. And that's because the two elements that make up the earth, your physical side, are shahwa and ghadab. Shahwa being your desire, and ghadab being anger. Desire and anger make up the physical side. You find animals don't have intellect. They run upon their desire. That's how they live. That's the animal side of the human being. Shahwa and ghadab. And these two things, desire and anger, the attribute that they have in common is that they are both infinite. There is no limit upon them. All the evil you see in the world, all the oppression, the greed, hubb al-dunya, the slavery that occurred, it all came from what? Desire and anger. These two things, when they were not confined, they took over. They need to be confined. They are dangerous when they are infinite. If you saw some food and you were very hungry, your desire doesn't know if the food is halal or not. All it knows is, I'm hungry and I need to eat now. It doesn't know if it's stolen or not, and it doesn't care. It will take it. That's all desire knows, if there is nothing to confine it. But then the sky comes along. The sky comes along to confine the earth. The sky is made up of wahi and aql. Wahi being revelation, the Quran and the Sunnah, and aql being our own intellect, that we've mentioned a few times so far in these past few nights. The intellect and the revelation confine the anger and confine the desire, because anger and desire in itself is not a bad thing. Desire is good when it comes to, for example, your relationship with your spouse. Anger is good when you are angry at the oppressor. That's anger for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a great element to have within us. But when is it used? If it's infinite, then it will cause destruction. If the aql and the wahi are there to confine their desire and the anger, then you will be on your path to progress, inshallah. Now, the reason why the Imams give us the narration that the human being can be greater than the angels or lower than the animals is because of this. Because the angel is only made up of intellect, and that's it. It only has sky. And the animals don't have anything but earth. The human being has both. So that means if his earth overtakes his sky, he's lower than the animals. Because he had intellect. He had a chance to get out of that. But if his sky overtakes his earth, he's greater than an angel. And that's legitimate. You have the potential to be greater than Jibreel. If your intellect can overtake your desire. In the middle of the sky and the earth is the human being. That's where we have to be. They call that al-qalb. That's the heart. The heart that we talk about is there, in the middle. The balance between earth and sky. Sometimes the earth is referred to as hawa, as passion. That's why you find in Dua al-Sabah, when the Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, وَهَوَاءِ الْغَالِبِ. What does that mean? That means my earth overcame my sky. My earth overtook my sky. Hawa'i al-Ghalib, the earth overtook. Now, for an example, to bring this closer, I have a cousin who has Down syndrome. Some people are born with intellects greater than others, some less than others. Unfortunately, the disability of Down syndrome makes the human being have a lack of intellect. So he doesn't have the same element to control the desire and the anger. And of course, Allah would not judge him for that. So my cousin, I look at him sometimes and I realize how these elements take control of him when he doesn't have the intellect to confine them. When he wants to eat, he eats. And he loves food. Even when he eats too much that his belly begins to hurt him, if you still offer him a milkshake, he'll still take it. He'll sit there, and his belly will be killing him, and be making noises, but you give him a milkshake, and he'll be like, okay. Because he doesn't have the intellect to tell him no. But when he's angry, he's very angry. And it's very difficult to try to confine that anger if you make him angry. So I watch him and I realize, okay, the lack of intellect there, or his ability to receive the revelation and understand it, means that he can't control these elements well. So he's very attached to the earth. Now, these elements, they grow within us as we grow. As we grow up, they grow. So we start as youngsters, the desire is there, the anger is there, and the intellect is there, and they all grow as we grow. The wahy isn't there yet. The revelation comes when you hit puberty. When you hit puberty, that's when you become a mukallaf, you're treated like an adult. Before that though, it's those three, the intellect, the anger, and the desire. And they're growing as you grow. That's why it's very important, whilst children are still young, to discipline them and let them get used to disciplining their desire and their anger from a young age. So that when they hit puberty, they are ready for the revelation. So that they're ready for it. So if your younger brother or sister or son or daughter says, Baba, I'm tired, help me, pick me up. You say, okay Baba, I'll pick you up. But we'll count to 10, okay? Then you put him back down. Why? So he doesn't get used to getting everything he likes. So his shahwa doesn't get used to always being fulfilled. So that when he grows up, he's not attached to the earth so much. He's not a person of only the earth. He's ready for the sky. Or when, for example, he says, Baba, I'm hungry. Okay, we can eat in half an hour. Or we eat this much. Why don't you fast half a day with us this Shahr Ramadan? Why not? You're teaching him slowly to discipline that desire and that anger. And Islam within itself, our worship allows us to discipline ourselves. Fasting, which we've mentioned before. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. Fasting has been prescribed for you as it has been prescribed for those before you. Why? Some people might say because fasting is healthy. That's true. But then the people who are healthy don't have to fast. They might say, well, fasting is so that we can remember the poor people. That's also true. But then, why do the poor people have to fast? So Allah carries on the ayah, He says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That's why. So that you may have God consciousness. So you may always be in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you come to eat, you stop. Why? Because I'm fasting. Why? It builds your taqwa. That's the revelation part. So that it confines that shahwa, that desire. So you discipline yourself. Same with praying. Look at the child and how he sits down, always fidgeting and playing with his toys. Tell him, every single day you must stand 5 times in the same direction. How will he feel? How unnatural is it to him? So if I was to tell someone here, myself included, to stand every single day for 5 times, facing one direction, and I am to feel unnatural about it, I need to look at my phone. I'm a person who's very attached to the earth. If you are able to do that without fidgeting, and you build yourself up, then you realize you're starting to elevate towards the sky. And everything within our religion is like that. Whether it's from staying away from the pork, or alcohol, for example. Alcohol, the reason why alcohol is haram is mentioned. It's because it's muskir. It can make you drunk. It has the ability to make you drunk. It doesn't have to make you drunk to be haram. The mere ability makes it haram. So if someone says, I just want a little sip, no, because it has the ability, it becomes haram. And everything that makes you drunk becomes haram. Why? Because muskir takes away the intellect, the element of the sky that confines your desire and your anger. Without that, then your anger and desire can run rampant. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was walking when big tough guys were throwing these stones across the land. Big heavy stones. And they asked him, Ya Rasulullah, come and see which one of us is the strongest. So the Prophet came and looked at them, and as they tossed those big bricks, and he told them, the strongest one of you is the one who can control his anger. It's not about how big you are, or how heavy you are, or what you can pick up. It's the one who can control that anger. That's true strength. That's real strength. So we have the ruh and the jasad, and zahir and batin, the inner and the outer. Both of them are needed, the body and the soul, to progress towards God. So everything that you have on the outside matters. It matters. Yes, it's the vehicle. Your soul is the real you. Your soul is the one who will be in the afterlife. The body is the vehicle, but the vehicle is important too. If on the vehicle you are dressing it up and you're putting all this glitter and extravagant clothes, that's going to affect the inside. The clothes we wear affect our soul. The clothes we wear. We have clothes that are mustahab to wear. The clothes we wear affect our soul, inner and the outer. It's very intricate. It's very detailed. If someone came and said, I can't focus in salat, what's my problem? Don't be shocked if you are told, what do you eat? Are you eating too much, or too much meat perhaps? You say, what does that have to do with anything? It does. That part of the body, of the earth, can affect the sky if it's taken too much. That's why there are three things, three principles, that if they are mastered, then the earth is mastered and your soul can progress. Your soul cannot progress on its own. It needs the earth to go with it. The sky and the earth go together and they make the human being. So what are those three principles? You have ta'am, manam, kalam. Ta'am being food, manam sleep, kalam talk or speak. In ta'am, what do you eat? How much do you eat? Muawiyah used to eat so much. Some of us, sometimes we have like the Muawiyah feasts. Those affect our souls. How much do you eat? What do you eat? When do you eat? All those things affect us. Manam, sleep. How much do you sleep? Some people need more or less sleep than others. But are you sleeping 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day? Or are you sleeping less? Are you not getting enough sleep? These things will affect your soul, believe it or not. Are you sleeping in between the tulu'ain being between dawn and sunrise? It's makruh to sleep after Salat al-Fajr until sunrise. We shouldn't sleep at that time. Or before Maghrib and Asha. It's makruh. It's not good to sleep at that time. Are we sleeping in that time? That also affects our soul. And kalam, what do we talk about? Do we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we talk? Or we perform ghibah? Do we talk about people? Do we joke so much that we're not even taken seriously anymore? In the narrations, the person who jokes so much, who isn't taken seriously anymore, is not think highly of. Is not thought highly of. It's okay to joke and have fun and bring peace into the heart of your brother or sister. But to become a personality of just jokes, it's not good. And that will also affect your soul. Think of it with me. If someone keeps you away from your sleep, how do you feel? You get angry, right? You desire that sleep. You desire it. If they keep you away from it, you're angry. If you want that food, and the last piece of meat in the fridge, and then your brother took it, you get angry. Right? Or, for example, when you're talking and someone cuts you off, you don't accept it. How could you cut me off? And then an argument ensues. Why? Because of your desire and your anger. If these three things, those three principles, ta'am, manan, kalam, food, sleep, and speak, if those three things are mastered, then your earth is mastered. And you're on your way to the sky. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam has a beautiful narration. He says, Ala wa inna min sahhati al-badani taqwa al-khulud. From the health of the body, the hearts are strengthened. The hearts are strengthened. The heart from the health of the body. See how it combines the earth and the sky to make the human, the qalb. The qalb. Another narration says, Al-aqlu fil-qalb yufaraqu fihi bayn al-haqqi wal-batil. The intellect is in the heart, and it separates between truth and wrongdoing. Now these things, they are to be done now. I'm glad that there are so many youth in the crowd, because the youth are the ones who have the greatest ability to change and to master these things. Starting early. The 50-year-old might be seen as less worthy in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a 10-year-old. Because he hasn't done anything, he hasn't taken upon himself the journey towards God subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we start when we're young, we are putting the roots within ourselves to change when we're older. It's much easier when we're young. For example, you have the big tree with roots in the earth and strong branches. Then you have the small blade of grass. The tree, if 10 of us here were to push on it and pull on it, it wouldn't break. The small blade of grass, a young child can come and pull it out of the ground. Yet, when the storm comes and the tree stands bold and says, I'm here, what happens in the morning? The tree is broken. But when the storm comes to the blade of grass, it just waves. It waves and dances. And when it's over, it's still there, it's just cleansed. It's just cleansed. Strength doesn't necessarily mean the boldness or being elderly or wiser if you're older. No. If you're younger, you have a much greater chance of performing. That's why we need to start our journey towards God now, brothers and sisters. Now. We can't say we'll leave it till later. We might not make it till later. You find that there are a lot more young people than older people. Why? Because a lot of those older people died on the way. Who said that you're going to make it to that age? If one youth is raised in a correct way, in a way to discipline his desire and anger through the intellect and the revelation, he can change a whole society. You just have to look at Imam Khomeini to see that. One man from his youth. And if one youth is raised with desire and anger his entire life, he will also destroy society, like Muawiyah. The way he was raised, no one could speak to him, the son of Abu Sufyan. And look what he did in his life. I want to read an extract from Imam Khomeini, a message to the youth about this, before inshallah going into the majlis. He calls it an appeal to the youth. He says, you are young and you can adopt this path better. Do not worry about us, we are already a spent force. You can purify your soul easily as you are closer to the world of divinity than we, the older people. Comparatively, you have deteriorated less, but things are becoming worse day by day. The more delay will make the matter more difficult. It is difficult for an old man to be reformed, but a young man can be reformed quickly. It's easier to reform thousands of young men than to reform one old man. Therefore, do not postpone the task of reform to old age. Begin this work whilst you are still young. Follow the teachings of the prophets. This is a starting point. While we are unaware of it, the prophets are familiar with the way of safety and security. Follow the way shown by them. Gradually, pay less and less attention to your desires. You will not get the desired result immediately, but gradually you can get rid of your egoism. One day, all our desires will come to naught. It is not in our interest to pay attention to them. Last thing is only that which relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he finishes off with the ayah in the Quran. He says, what is with you will come to an end, and what is with Allah will remain. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The caravan of Imam al-Hussain are on their way back to Medina after the tragedy of Karbala. As Sayyidah Zainab, Imam al-Sajjad and the orphans approach Medina, a man comes out, runs to Imam Zain al-Abidin and asks him, Master, can I be of service? The Imam asks him, are you a poet? The man says yes. So he recite poetry for my father Abu Abdullah as we enter Medina. As they enter Medina, the man begins to recite his poetry until they reach the grave of Rasulullah. He stands there and recites for Imam al-Hussain until crowds gather around him. A woman
comes to all the commotion and begins to push through the people. Oh people, let me through. I need to ask the poet some questions. She reaches the front and asks, oh poet, do you recite for Imam al-Hussain? The man says, yes. The woman asks him, tell me please, is he still alive? The people tell the man, this woman is al-Baneen, the four martyrs in Karbala. The man is astonished to find al-Baneen in front of him. He tells her straight away, Ya Matallah, I send my condolences to you on the martyrdom of your son Ja'far. Al-Baneen says, oh man, I didn't ask you about my son Ja'far. I asked you for Hussain. The man says, I send my condolences to you upon the martyrdom of your son Abdullah. She said, oh man, I didn't ask you about Abdullah. I asked you about Hussain. The man says, I send my condolences to you upon the martyrdom of your son Aoun. She says, oh man, I didn't ask you about my son Aoun. I asked you about my son Hussain. The man said, Ya Matallah, I send my condolences to you upon the martyrdom of your son Abbas. Oh man, you have broken my heart with these words. Tell me about my son Hussain. The man says, Ya Matallah, I send my condolences to you upon the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. Whilst in Medina, Imam Zain al-Abidin's uncle, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, comes to see the Imam. Once he sees him, he faints to the floor. Imam al-Sajjad sits with him, he picks him up by the neck. He says, oh uncle, it's me, Ali. He says, Ya Ali, where is your brother Ali al-Akbar? Where is your uncle Abbas? Where is your father Hussain? Imam al-Sajjad tells him they've all been martyred in Karbala. I'm the only one here. Muhammad asks him, Ya Ali, where is your Aunt Zainab? The irony was that Zainab was right by his side. He didn't recognize her because of all the troubles she went through. He thought she was just a normal woman paying her respect to the Ahlul Bayt. Imam al-Sajjad turns to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya with a choke in his throat. He tells him, this woman to my side is Zainab.